Your gas station pulls in $3.5 million a year. $3.5 million. Cars line up all day. The pumps never stop. On paper, you're running a money machine. But here's the question nobody actually answers. How much of that $3.5 million ends up in your pocket? Because that number, that's the one that will absolutely destroy your expectations, and probably everything you thought you knew about this business. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what a gas station owner takes home, where the real money actually comes from, and why the biggest trap in this entire business is the one sitting right at your pumps. Let's run the numbers. First things first, you need to get in the door. And getting in the door is expensive. You don't just wake up one morning and decide to own a gas station. There are layers here, big ones. If you want to lease an existing operation, the cheapest possible entry point, you're looking at $250,000 minimum just to get the keys. And that's before you touch inventory, branding, or repairs. Want to buy an established station that already has a customer base? You're shopping in the $1.5 million to $5 million range. That's business assets plus real estate. Prime location, high traffic corner, easily $4 million to $8 million. And if you decide to build from the ground up, your own design, your own layout, budget between $3.85 million and $10 million plus. Land acquisition alone runs $750K to $3 million, fuel equipment and tank installation, another $300K to $750K, the store itself, $250K to $1 million, and there's a line item most aspiring owners don't even think about: environmental compliance. Underground storage tanks have to meet strict federal and state regulations. Planning, permitting, engineers, lawyers. Add another $100K to $400K before you pour a single drop of fuel. So before your station sells 1 gallon, you may have already spent $5, $6, $7 million. That context matters a lot. Because when you hear what the margins actually look like, you're going to need it. You're open. Pumps are running. A customer rolls up and pays $3.50 a gallon. Here's what most people think. That spread between what the oil company charges you and what the customer pays, that's your profit. It's not. Not even close. The actual gross markup on fuel before a single expense is roughly 35 to 40 cents per gallon. That's the ceiling. Everything else chips away from there. Start with federal and state excise taxes. Those are already baked into the pump price, but they're not your money. You're just the collection agent passing them through to the government. Then come the credit card fees. This one is brutal, and almost nobody talks about it. Every single swipe at the pump costs you 1.5% to 3.5% of the transaction. On a $70 fill-up, that's over $2 in fees alone. On a sale where your total margin was maybe $0.35 a gallon, you're losing before the pump stops clicking. And in the US, and the vast majority of customers pay with cards. So this isn't an occasional hit. It's every transaction, all day, every day. Now pile on payroll, utilities, insurance, especially environmental liability insurance, which is required and not cheap, maintenance on pumps and tanks, and your mortgage or lease payment on a multi-million-dollar property. After all of that, your net margin on fuel is somewhere between 1% and 1.4%. That's it. Industry standard. That's not a bad month. That's the baseline. On $2 million in fuel revenue, that's $20,000 to $28,000 in actual net profit from gasoline. Annualized. Let that land for a second. You're managing a facility worth millions of dollars, dealing with environmental regulations, running 24/7 operations, and the product that everyone associates with your business is earning you the margins of a lemonade stand. Which is exactly why the smartest operators in this business figured out something a long time ago, and it changed everything. The gas is the bait. Say that again. The gas is the bait. Its job isn't to make you money. Its job is to get people to pull into your lot. Because once they're there, that's when you actually have a shot at profit. According to NACS, the National Association of Convenience Stores, convenience store in-store sales hit $335.5 billion across the industry in 2024. That was the 22nd consecutive year of record in-store sales, 22 years in a row. While fuel revenue swings up and down with oil prices, inside the store keeps growing. Here's the margin comparison. Fuel, 1% to 1.4% net. In-store snacks, drinks, packaged goods, 40% to 60% gross margin. The $2 energy drink you sell costs you maybe 85 cents. The $1.50 bag of chips costs you 60 cents. The cup of coffee from your self-serve machine, you're keeping 70 cents of every dollar. And they didn't need to schedule an appointment, wait in line, or get out of their car to pump $70 of near-zero margin fuel. Now look at what the numbers actually say. For a typical single-location gas station, fuel might represent 60 to 70% of total revenue, but only about 30% of total profit. The convenience store, which represents maybe 30 to 40% of revenue, is responsible for roughly 70% of your actual profit. The business model is completely inverted from what it looks like on the surface, but there's one category inside the store that's accelerating faster than everything else, and most people watching this video buy it without thinking twice. Coffee, fountain drinks, hot dogs, breakfast sandwiches, anything prepared on site. Food service isn't just a growing category, it is now the engine of the entire convenience store model. In 2024, food service represented 7% of all in-store sales, and pay attention here, 39.6% of in-store gross margin dollars, almost 40% of your store's gross profit from one category. The math on this is staggering. A coffee machine that cost you a few $1,000s to install can generate margins north of 70%. A hot dog roller that costs maybe $500 to buy and runs for years? You're selling those for $2 to $3 at margins that would make a restaurant owner cry. This is why you've seen stations in the last decade completely transform their interiors. Proper coffee bars, dedicated food prep areas, fresh pastries. Some stations now look closer to fast casual restaurants than traditional gas station stores. Because the operators who figured this out early are running circles around the ones still treating the store as an afterthought. If you're just watching people pump gas and hoping they grab a bag of chips on the way out, you're leaving 40% of your potential profit on the table. Let's build the real picture. Take a mid-size, well-run independent station on a decent traffic road in the US. Here's what the year looks like. Annual revenue, fuel sales, roughly $2.2 million in-store sales, roughly $1 million total, $3.2 million. Now the expenses. And this is where it gets real. Cost of goods, fuel. Wholesale cost eats up about $2.13 million of that 2.2 meters in fuel revenue. So gross fuel profit around $70,000. Cost of goods, store. With a 50% gross margin on $1 in sales, cost of goods is $500,000. Gross store profit, $500,000. Combined. Gross profit, $570,000. Sounds solid. Here comes the other side. Operating expenses. Payroll and labor, $180,000 to $240,000. You need people, even if you're there yourself. Rent or mortgage payment, $80,000 to $200,000, depending on location credit card processing fees, $40,000 to $60,000. Yes, per year. Utilities, electricity for pumps, refrigeration, lighting, $30,000 to $50,000 insurance. General liability, environmental property, $20,000 to $40,000. Maintenance on tanks, pumps, systems, $15,000 to $30,000. Accounting, legal, miscellaneous professional. Fees, $10,000 to $20,000. Total operating expenses, $375,000 to $640,000. Do the math. If you're on the efficient end, good location, lean staffing, solid food service operation, you might clear $80,000 to $120,000 in net owner income. If expenses run hot, old equipment, high rent location, no real food service, lots of card transactions, you're looking at $40,000 to $60,000 for a multi-million-dollar investment. And if you borrowed heavily to acquire the property, debt service eats whatever's left. This is why industry data consistently shows single location owner salaries ranging from $60,000 to $120,000 annually, with the average closer to $70,000 to $80,000. That's not poverty-level money, but compared to the capital at risk and the hours required to run a 24/7 business with employees and compliance requirements, the return on investment is not what most people imagine when they see cars lined up at the pumps. You're watching the numbers and thinking, okay, this is manageable. And it can be. But there's a layer of costs that no broker or franchise salesperson emphasizes, and they will absolutely catch you off guard. Environmental liability. Underground storage tanks leak, it happens. And when it does, you are legally responsible for the cleanup. which can cost hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. Federal and state regulations require monitoring systems, regular inspections, and in many states, mandatory environmental insurance. This is not optional, and the costs are real. Regulatory compliance. Every time regulations around tank standards or fuel blending requirements change, and they do change, you may be required to upgrade equipment. These aren't optional improvements. They're mandated, timed, and they cost money. Price wars. You set your price at $3.45 us. The station across the street drops to $3.38. You either match them and compress your already thin margin further, or you lose volume. Price wars in dense markets are a genuine problem, and they happen constantly. The 24/7 trap. You can staff it, or you can be there yourself. Many first-time owners underestimate how much of their personal time gets consumed by a gas station. Coverage gaps, employee turnover, late-night issues. This isn't a passive investment, it's an operation. Credit card fee inflation. As more transactions move away from cash, which is accelerating, the percentage of sales going to processing fees keeps climbing. This is a structural cost that only trends one direction. If you think you're going to buy a station and cruise, this is the section that resets that expectation. So who's actually making real money in this industry? Because people are. 3 operators stand out. The volume player. High traffic highway location, 20 pumps, 5,000 plus gallons per day. The per gallon margin is still thin, but thin times massive volume starts to add up. These stations can generate real 6-figure EBITD from fuel alone when combined with a strong in-store operation. The multi-location operator. You don't run one station, you run 5 or 10. The operational infrastructure, accounting, purchasing, management, doesn't scale linearly with the number of locations. Every additional station you add requires less incremental overhead than the first one. This is where the real wealth in this industry is built. Multi-store portfolios can clear $200,000 to $500,000 in annual owner income, and the underlying real estate appreciates independently. The food-forward operator. You didn't build a gas station with a store. You built a destination with coffee, prepared food, a car wash, and the gas pumps out front are just how customers find you. These operators are consistently outperforming the industry because they figured out where the margin actually lives. The operators who struggle are the ones who bought a station thinking the gas would carry them and never built the inside business. Here's the part most gas station owners aren't talking about out loud: electric vehicles. Right now, EVs are still a small percentage of the overall fleet, but the trajectory is clear and the timeline is compressing. As EV adoption grows, the number of customers who need gasoline every week declines. And remember, fuel is the traffic driver. It's what brings people to your lot. If fuel volume drops and it pulls in-store traffic with it, the entire model starts to stress. The smart operators are already responding. Some are installing EV charging stations and turning the model upside down in their favor. Because while a gas fill-up takes 3 minutes, a charging session takes 20 to 45 minutes. That's 20 to 45 minutes of dwell time inside your store at 50% margins that you didn't have before. The gas station of the future isn't dead, but it looks different. It's a charging hub, a food destination, and a retail experience, with fuel as one of several revenue streams, not the only reason to exist. The owners positioning themselves now for that transition are the ones who will still be relevant in 2035. The ones ignoring it are on a clock they may not fully understand. So, back to the original question. You're pumping $3.5 million through your business per year. How much goes in your pocket? The honest answer, most likely $60,000 to $120,000. In exceptional situations, as a great location, strong food service, lean operations, significant volume, you push toward $200,000 or beyond. And if you built a multi-location portfolio on prime real estate, the income and the asset value are in completely different territory. But for a single location, average operator doing everything reasonably well, the research consistently lands in that $60K to $120K band. Industry data, operator reports, analyst estimates, they all converge there. For a business that requires millions in capital to enter, operates around the clock, carries significant regulatory and environmental liability, and depends on a commodity with near zero margins, That return is not as comfortable as the parking lot looks from the outside. What makes this business work is not the gas. It has never been the gas. It's the coffee, the energy drinks, the breakfast sandwich, the car wash. The gas is just the billboard that tells you where to exit. The owners who understand that, and build accordingly, are the ones actually winning. The ones who think they're in the fuel business, they're slowly figuring out they're not. If you've ever wondered whether a franchise like 7-Eleven or Circle K actually changes these numbers, or if the brand is worth the fees they charge, that's exactly what we're breaking down in the next video. The answer might surprise you. If this breakdown helped you see the real numbers behind a business that looks simple from the road, hit like. It genuinely helps us keep making these. And if you want the full picture on what owners actually make across different industries, subscribe. We do this every week.